Is Fatalis creating havoc in your life? Well, you're not alone. This video is designed for both solo and multiplayer players. I'm not going to waste any more time. I'm going to jump right into it because we have so much to cover. Let's get started. We're going to approach this in 3 phases. First up, armor and weapons. Then coming in second, we're going to talk about your decos and what's specific about them and some variations that you can use. Then finally, we're going to talk about your item loadout and how bringing along a couple different items might make this fight so much easier. If you stick around to the end, I'm going to have 2 bonus tips on gameplay that will make a world of difference in your experience with Fatalis. First up, build. And one of the more important things around this is I want you to forget about the weapon you're using for Fatalis. Now, I'm going to give you a weapon recommendation. I really am, and because I beat him with every weapon, I will tell you like which one that I found would be the easiest. But for now, let's just talk about the build itself and go into some of the detail here. So, and I think this will be consistent across every single weapon here, just based on what you need. So, first and foremost, we're gonna talk about the armor, and really, you're looking for 2 things here. You're looking for Saphia's Seal, just the first portion of it. And then you're looking for Elatrion Divinity. And for Saphia's Seal, it's about getting the extra damage. And Elatrion's Divinity is about getting some extra elemental damage. These armor sets combined, getting those set bonuses, are geared towards hitting those high damage caps that you need to kill Fatalis. Especially if you're doing it solo. Now, jumping into it, the best setup that I like, that I found it kind of merges across all weapons, is using the Saphi Crested Crown, Saphi Crested Vambraces, and Saphi Crested Belt. Okay? And then filling in the other 2 gaps with Escadora Soul and Escadora Sheath. That will provide you with an excellent spread of damage and a lot of good skills that you can leverage throughout this entire hunt. Now, let's talk about mantles. And there's a couple different options here that you can use. And I'll explain each one. First off, I think the Temporal Mantle is probably by far the best for this hunt in terms of functionality. It helps you get out of a lot of bind and helps break the monotony, allows you to be a little bit more risky and capitalize on some of those damage opportunities, even while Fatalis is moving around quite a bit. The second mantle slot, and here's where I think you have a little bit of flexibility. The first one I'll talk about is Rocksteady Mantle. I think in a lot of Fatalis' attacks, he does a really good job of following up with another attack immediately. And what the Rocksteady Mantle allows you to do is absorb that first attack, not move, but gives you an opportunity to dodge out of the way and miss that follow-up. And that is extremely important within this fight. The second one that I say is helpful if you're a bow user, longsword user, or any weapon that has a counter that you'll be using frequently, and that's the Evasion Mantle. It's got 2 great decoration slots that you can slot in some extra crit boost or something, or something of the nature, whether it be weapon specific, that can help elevate that damage. And upon the perfect dodges, you get actually an enhanced attack. This one provides a little less resilience, but very much boosts your damage. And I find that it's most effective if you're playing with a team. And keep in mind that we're talking about your first hunt with Fatalis and trying to have the best experience here. By no means am I talking optimized build. So that being said, the Evasion Mantle I think it takes a little bit more skill or is weapon dependent. What's next is I want to really take a boost to that dragon damage. Okay, so the Wormsbane charm helps you elevate that dragon attack and get the most out of that elemental, because Fatalis is weak to dragon, and while you'll have a high raw attack with the weapon, you'll also have a high dragon attack with the Wormsbane charm. Now that we're here, let's talk about weapons. And frankly, you can use whatever weapon you want with this build. Some of the deco slots might change a little bit during weapon dependent, but whatever you're comfortable with, use. But in my experience, what I have found has been the easiest across all the weapons to beat Fatalis consistently. I found the bow. I am a primary hammer user for any context. And I found that the bow provides consistent damage as well as the dodging ability to let you avoid Fatalis's attacks a whole lot easier. And you quickly sheath it, which helps as well to kind of close some of the gap against Fatalis himself. And I use Elatrion Commandment. So with that, just remember that you can use the weapon you want. The build applies throughout all your weapons. Just remember that when I show you the next part, there might be some weapon-specific things slotted in there, and we can talk through that in the comments as well if you have any questions. The last thing that's important to talk about on the weapon standpoint is really think about what your augmentations are. It'll be a little bit different whether it's a melee or a ranged weapon of what you're using. So I'll explain that as we jump in. So let's look at Elatrion's Commandment, which is the bow. And really, I'm focused on two things here. Because I have Saphia's Seal, I want a little bit extra health regen so I can help prevent those one-shots. What I've done is I've slotted in a health regen. That way, even though I'm hitting Fatalis and constantly doing damage to myself with Saphia's Seal, I'm still gaining a little bit more health upon each landed hit. And that helps counteract that Saphia's Seal effect. The second thing on the range portion, I have element and status effect up, and it's primarily for the status effect. One thing I really like doing with this particular weapon is paralysis and sleep, and those two are extremely helpful in defeating Fatalis and giving you a break so you can do some massive, quick stints of damage. If you're a melee weapon user, in this case, I would actually recommend just slotting in 2 health regens. That would make an extreme difference. And then finally, to add to that, just a little bit tidbit, if you're using the Insect Glaive, make sure your Kinsect is putting out health regen as well. It will make a world of difference whenever you're fighting Fatalis in terms of counteracting all the hits that you have with the Saphia's Seal. Now, let's talk about your deco slots. And I think it's important to note here that I've made sure to kind of bring this build into deco slots that aren't really like ultra rare. And by the time you're reaching Fatalis, you probably have most of these, if not multiple versions of them. And I'll give out some of the variations. The first portion's here, the Clutch Claw boost. And this skill is important, especially if you're a lighter weapon user and you normally take 2 times of clutch clawing onto the monster. This skill does, it makes it easier to wound. And really, you can wound it in one go. I have really enjoyed to hurt Fatalis quickly with the bow, and it allows me to get back to doing damage. But if you're a heavier weapon user, then by all means, you can remove this deco. Up next, just slotting in that extra portion of dragon damage since the charm only gives you 5. So, and then I like to add a defense jewel as well to help increase that defense, get it up to at least level 4. I think level 4 really helps, especially with the elemental resistance and getting that extra fire resistance in there. Up next, weakness exploit and recovery up. Those are a couple skills that are very helpful. And frankly, from a weakness exploit part, you really want all 3 in there. So find a way to do that. And then from a recovery up standpoint, use whatever jewels you have, but I think you really only need an extra 1 slot. And that'll just help with those mega potions, boosting your recovery a little bit. Now, the next part is where I find you can have a little variation depending upon your weapon. One of the areas that I have found that is extremely important, what type of damage do you die from Fatalis more frequently? And this may be a personal basis or a person-to-person basis, but you're more likely to die for Fatalis if you're using a ranged weapon from his fire attacks, because you'll have a little bit more distance, and those are the attacks that he can blast off really quickly, and that extra fire resistance will come in extremely helpful to give you the ability to just withstand that attack. If you are a melee damage primary weapon, then I would absolutely slot in protection jewels for Divine Blessing. That will help with Fatalis, just kind of like his quick swipes, his tail swipe, or him just moving around the ground really quickly. I would slot in at least 3 levels of Divine Blessing, and that will absolutely make your life a whole lot easier. Now, up next, the ever more important part about the Fatalis hunt is breaking his head. So regardless of what your build is, I suggest having all 3 levels of Part Breaker. And you can put that in however you want. Slotting in Part Breaker, having all 3 levels is critical to defeating Fatalis. And breaking that head helps reduce the strength of his fire attacks and makes your life so much easier when you're getting into the 4th and 5th phase. This next one is very much, these are your weapon dependent slots. As I'm using a bow, I like to decrease my stamina depletion. So I like slotting in physique jewels with the skill Constitution. That combined with a dash juice makes my life a whole lot easier when you're using the bow or anything that has a ton of stamina depletion. The next part is, this is the spread jewel, and this is for the bow as well. So another open slot that you can absolutely trade in for whatever weapon you're using, along with the mighty bow jewel itself. So you have 1, 2, 3, 4 slots that provide weapon specific flexibility, or if you want to increase any of your defenses, you could use right there. Up next is your mantles. The evasion mantle, rocksteady mantle, temporal mantle, they all have up to level 2. The evasion mantle having 2 level 2 jewels, so you can slot a little something extra in there. In this case, I like to use critical jewel 2, or if you're using the rocksteady mantle, you'll only get level 1. I would just slot in 2 more attack jewels. That way, with each mantle that you put on, you have a little bit of an attack boost in your raw attack. If you have any questions, drop it in the comments, and I love responding to y'all and seeing the discussion flow. And I'm happy to offer any extra clarification if it's not clear. Finally, the last part about the build that I want to discuss is around the items to bring. And I'm not going to go over all the items that you need to bring, okay? Most of this stuff is pretty darn basic. And since you've been hunting for so long, I know that you know most of these items. But just in case you want some optimal item suggestions, I have a video talking about item loadouts that you will need throughout all portions of the game. So with that, you can check out that video, but for the sake of this, let's just discuss what's critical for Fatalis, and maybe some of the obvious ones, but what are the things that I would absolutely bring to aid in your hunt and help shorten that hunt too, so you're not bumping up against that time constraint. So first off, like if you're hunting with people, bring Dust of Life. That's a given, ever more given in Fatalis. It helps save those cards, especially when his phase transitions come through and he's burning the crap out of everybody. Having some Dust of Life to help those people that are kind of taking a little long to get to their protection area really helps out. The second thing that I find is extremely important, and it's about creating tick damage. Now, if you're a ranged weapon user, you have access to poison. If you're not, and if you're the bow, which this bow happens not to use poison damage, bring some poison bombs. And then find an opportunity, drop all 5 poison bombs, and slap a poison on Fatalis, and that'll do a lot of tick damage. I especially like doing this in the very beginning of the hunt, when he's not like enraged and always all over the place. So it allows me to consistently drop those bombs in and just get an immediate effect of bonus damage up front. Next, and this is mainly if you're hunting solo or you've got a full new team, I would highly recommend the Mega Demon Drug and the Mega Armor Skin. It adds just a little hair of damage boost to kind of help, since you're getting the hang of Fatalis, and that little extra damage boost and little extra defense really helps you in that hunt itself. And if you're having a hard time getting these because some of the ingredients are a little tough, the Elder Melder is absolutely the best place to do it. Cost and time effective. With that being said, one more item that I want to call out here, and that's the Farcaster. It will help you get out of a bind, especially if you run out of heals or anything. And it still happens to me where just some hunts don't go perfect, of course, and I still drop the Farcaster so I can go back and just re-up some of my items, especially some of your ammo coatings or things of that nature. With that, I think everything else is pretty standard within your normal builds, outside of some weapon specific areas like the Nitro Shroom and the Empty Files, so I can quickly get some more power coatings on the thing. So I come in with 70 instead of 50. From an item perspective, that's basically what you'll need, plus a little extra bonus that I'm going to get into right now in my bonus tips. Bonus tip number 1 revolves around closing the gap. And I know in this video, we're talking a lot about builds and what included in that and making the best build for Fatalis, but the build will do absolutely nothing if you don't approach this strategy in defeating him. So many people get caught by Fatalis and die because he increases the distance between you and him, and he absolutely just wrecks you on your way back to it. So immediately when Fatalis moves or shifts, close that gap. Otherwise, your build and all the effort you put in will go straight down the drain. Tip number 2, and oh my God, I wish I knew this earlier. And this is a rather recent discovery for me. And it's around an extra item to bring to help assist you in the hunt. And what that is smoke bombs. You will be amazed on how effective smoke bombs are against Fatalis. Either you or one of your group members slaps this thing down, and Fatalis is lost. He can't find you, and y'all are all like right up on him. And as long as he's in the same spot, just use that smoke bomb, and he'll just look aimlessly as you just completely pummel him. It's not an end-all be-all, but smoke bombs can really help get you out of a jam and protect your entire team. Bring your 3 smoke bombs and then add your smoke nut, and then in this little blank space right here is supposed to be ivy. I'm crafting some more ivy because I've done run out. That way you can craft smoke bombs on the go and continue dropping them throughout the entire hunt, especially when he's kind of raging around. So he'll lose you, and they're extremely effective against him. Thank you for watching, and if you're looking for more on Fatalis, check out my breakdown of the hunt that is nearly flawless, not perfect, but I walk through exactly like what our team was sneaking in this part of the hunt, and the best part about this is no deaths. So anyway, please let me know what you think in the comments, and thanks for watching. Ajax out.